What are you going to do with all of your silver when you're dead and gone? Well, probably not a lot, because you'll be dead and gone. But if you don't at least have a think about that kind of thing, as morbid as it might be, you might be setting future generations up for a little bit of hard times and maybe even some financial issues. So as much as we might not want to talk about our own mortality, I think it is an interesting and important topic to have a good ramble about. So let's dive in and talk about future planning for your gold and silver stag when you're no longer with us. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and I'm back. I'm back for another precious metal ramble. For those that saw my video on Wednesday, I definitely needed a break, and what I needed was a 20-hour sleep straight after making that little video, which did me the world of good, and I'm starting to feel much more like myself again, which is great. So easing my way back into things, don't worry, I'm not overdoing it. But what I did think about for like 5 or 6 days of sitting in a hospital bed being bored, because quite frankly there's bugger all else to think about, was what's going to happen to all my gold and silver when I'm dead and gone. Now, don't worry, I'm not poorly enough to worry about that right now, and I was not on death's door when I was in hospital, but I was in hospital and I was quite unwell. And it does get me thinking about those scenarios now, and more so than I think before. You know, I'm not an old person. I am very much sat in my middle age and I'm loving it. But at the same time, this world can be cruel and it can take us away at the most inopportune moments when you think everything's just great and fine. So to not even think about it and not plan for it, I think is a bit silly, really. And certainly when you put it in the context of everything that I've always talked about for precious metals, about planning, you know, getting into this stuff is more difficult than just putting numbers on a screen in a bank account and the like. And I do think that having just a little bit of, you know, a little bit of common sense about how things are going to be, where things are going to be, who knows about things, and where you might be able to get the money out of it for the future generations, I think is pretty critical. Because I have heard stories of estates that go up for sale and they get pennies on what they really should be worth, whether they be collectibles or whether they be just bullion that's sold to some unscrupulous dealer who, well, quite frankly, sees a payday coming. It can happen, and it does happen, and it's quite scary. So, a lot to think about, and I am not in any way a estate and tax planning advice person, or whatever they're called. I'm just a guy who talks about shiny things. So do bear that in mind, and do also, I think, take it fairly seriously, because there's a lot that could be relevant to an individual that might not be for you. So lots to think about, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, what I want to start with was, well, the first thing that got me a little bit anxious when I was in the hospital, other than being poorly, was that I had this pile of silver in front of me that is here, that was sent to me by other people, and it was then going to be up for sale. And so these people, you know, it's part of my business, part of what I do, I sell it on other people's behalf. And before you rush to my website and look, this is all sold now, by the way. But the point is that I wasn't able to do it. And the people who'd sent this stuff in, you know, through no fault of their own, they had a delay of nearly a week until they got their cash, until they got their money from selling this stuff. And that's fine. You know, people understand. I think generally in this world, there are a lot of people who are absolutely fine. If there's a genuine reason, if there's something that's happened, like I had, or just, you know, inconvenience, gone to hospital, can't do the work at the moment, sorry, that's fine. People are going to be okay. But you just don't know. There could be some people who have an emergency situation and they needed that cash sooner. So from my perspective, I was a little bit concerned about that, and I reached out to these people from my hospital beds, and, you know, a lot of people were like, you shouldn't be doing this, just rest, recuperate. And to a certain extent, I would agree, but I still thought it was important. So I guess from my perspective, what I want to start by saying is contingency planning, I think, is really important. Like, you know, if you are inconvenienced and there are people who depend on you in that sense, then make sure that they are at least, I guess, looked after in some way. Not necessarily by you, but by a plan that would then look after other people, I guess is what I'm saying. So that was the first thing that got me. The second thing that got me was that I felt very fortunate to have Mrs. Backyard Bullion there in the background, for obvious reasons beyond just like helping out with being poorly. But she was there to really like step up, to really help manage some of my anxieties about all of this stuff. And also I knew in the back of my mind that Mrs. Backyard Bullying, she's quite savvy. She knows a lot about this world if the worst happened. And look, again, just to reiterate, I'm fine. I'm not dying. I'm not ill anymore. I'm fine. But when you're lying in your hospital bed and you've got some tubes coming out of various arms, you do think about some of the things in this world, and you think, well, okay, if I am not here, then Mrs. Backyard Bullying at least will have the precious metals that we've got, and she knows about them. She knows where they are. She knows how to get hold of them if she needs to from secure storage, and she knows all of the little secrets that we've got in terms of where things are hidden and stuff, which is really important, because if nobody knows and you're gone, what's going to happen to it? It might be found. You might have, I guess, some probate person come round, search your house, find a drawer, hidden compartment somewhere with some gold coins in it. I don't know, but might not at all. And if it's important to keep your stacking safe and secure and not tell every soul on the planet about it. That's definitely advice that I would suggest and live by. But from my perspective, I do think it's important that somebody knows, whether it's a solicitor, whether it's in a will, or whether it's, a loved one. I do think that's important. Otherwise, what's the point of it all? If it just goes to waste, if it just gets put down, in a hole in the ground and forgotten about for 2,000 years, like the Romans used to do, then what's the point? What is the point of it all? So that, from my perspective, is, I think important. It's definitely something that I've reflected on. It's lucky that we've got that situation. And I think that that's not to be taken for granted. There are definitely things that people can do to help prepare in those situations. So I think forewarned is forearmed. Isn't that the phrase or something? There's forearmed is foreplanned, something, I don't know. Anyway, be planned, be aware, be, I guess, knowledgeable about what's going on in the greater scheme of families and lives and what happens. Next little bit that I want to talk about, I'm sorry I'm going on tangents, but that's what I do best. I love it. It's great to be back. What I want to talk about next, though, is if you have got the facility to, I guess, educate and plan a little bit ahead, it's important to know where perhaps the best place might be to sell various bits of silver and gold. Certainly if you inherit a whole bunch. Now, not everybody in this world is set up to have precious metals in their lives, and it might be that if you have inherited some from a loved one or family member, then you won't know anything about it. You don't want anything to do with it. You think it might be a bit of a liability perhaps, and for sure you might just want to get rid of it, and that's absolutely fine. But perhaps the person that's leaving some of that stuff could yield a little bit of advice within a will, or within some of the education they might impart on people through time before they get to that point. A lot of people who know nothing about gold and silver, they really do know nothing about gold and silver. They might really not know the true value of gold and silver. And if they just, if they inherit a gold coin, or if they find a gold coin, in a drawer somewhere in an old relative's house and they don't know about it, they could A, not believe it's gold and just chuck it out, or B, if they took it down to a local shop, perhaps somebody less honourable and scrupulous in this world might see an opportunity to make some money. And that's, I think, a little bit sad. We hope that in the world that we live in, if we are no longer in it, that there would be at least some semblance of morality behind. But sadly, most of my experiences are, businesses are there to make money. And when they can, they do. And they do a lot. And I would think it would be awful for me if I was to part this mortal coil, shuffle off this mortal coil, as so they say. And, Mrs. Backyard Bullying, perhaps she wasn't as knowledgeable as she is now, but she went down to a dealer, like a pawn shop or something, and she got 65-40% gold price. I don't know. I'm just making numbers up. But, there are definitely things that could go wrong. And I think I'd be like, huh? What? Why is that happening? It doesn't have to happen. It's so easy not to happen. But again, it's just about communication, about knowledge, about sharing ahead of time what those best options might be. Likewise, in terms of maybe you don't want the future generation to sell. Maybe your parting wish from this world would be to have people understand what the true value of the money that you've got is, and the wealth that you've got. And maybe, and it happens a lot more than you think, and I would imagine there's a lot of stackers out there who have, you know, great deal of knowledge on this firsthand, that if you inherit some stuff from people, it might instill a new way of life for people. It might change the way that people look about their finances and their money. And whilst it's not necessarily, you know, every generation's prerogative to tell the next generation how they should live and how they should spend their money, it would be, I think, amiss, certainly of myself, to not try and instill this idea of responsible money ownership and responsible cash and the use of cash in society and money, what its true value is. I think it would be, it would probably irk me a little bit if I was sat there as a ghost on the other side going, why? What was it all for? And that's what I was thinking about more on this sort of, you know, 6-day jaunt into the hospital. It was not about my impending mortality, because I was fine. But honestly, there's going to be conspiracy theories abound. But I did think about how I want to interact with my silver and gold into the future. The last bit that I want to talk about is, I mean, it's like, because I was sat there on the hospital bed, not really, you know, nothing else to think about. It's like, what's the point of it all? It's like this huge moment in your life where you go, I've got this big pile of silver. What does it do? It does nothing. It's useless. And I was like, you know, in those situations, you really would change anything when you're not well and you want to just get out of the hospital. Like, I'd take all the silver, take it all. I want to go home. I'm done. You know, there was a point like when was I got out on Wednesday, so I think it was Monday. The doctors were like, all right, you're getting better. Probably get you home tomorrow. So Tuesday I was meant to go home, and then Tuesday came and they were like, we're just going to keep you in another day just to be safe. And I was just so crestfallen. I was like, just want to go home. I'm just tired. I just feel like I need to be at home. I'll be better at home than I am here. But, you know, the doctors know best. So that is what it is. But the point here is that, you know, silver is important. Gold is important. Money is important. But your health is more important. And from my perspective, like, I think after a few days, I just stopped worrying about it. And I just stopped thinking about it. And I was like, do you know what? I really don't care anymore. I mean, I care. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't, like, it's money. You know, health is more important than money. And if you're not there to enjoy your life, then it doesn't make a difference. So that's my philosophical end to today's video. It's taking a bit of a turn, hasn't it? Goodness me. But the point here is that it was interesting as an experience to have this sort of mental thought experiment about what I might do or what I want to do with the gold and silver in my life into the future generations perhaps, or maybe just, I don't know, cash out of it at some point and live my life. Because I don't want to sit on, and this is a parting thought for you, for those of you sitting to the end of a video, for my ramblers, for my people who like to listen to me just talk. This is a thought for you. If you get to the end of your life and you've got a giant pile of silver or gold, you've got lots of money, and it feels great, doesn't it? It feels great. But if you sat there and you're thinking, well, what's it doing for me? Nothing. And you can't then take that world tour or buy the car you've always dreamed of, or, I don't know, move into a house that you really, really want to live in. It just doesn't make sense to me. So there are important things in life. Gold and silver are definitely important to me and to my life. But, you know, there'll come a point where I'll be like, so I'm done, I'm out. And I probably will cash out of everything. Don't know if I'll cash out of every single thing, but I'll probably cash out of the vast majority of holdings before I go, in many, many years' time. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere soon, and we'll be making content for a long time. And I'm looking forward to making content for you all again. So thank you to my ramblers. Thank you to everybody who sent good wishes when I put my little video out last Wednesday. It meant the world. It really did. It was great. I didn't see a great deal of them until the next day because I was asleep pretty much instantly, but it was great. It was great to hear from you. Thank you. So we'll see you next time. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.